Very interesting. wefox's journey to unleashing the power of self-service data analytics. We welcome Evgeni Hasin, Director of Data Analytics at wefox.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Evgeni. I'm Director of Group Data Analytics at wefox. Today I'd like to talk with you about our journey towards self-service data analytics. So a little bit about wefox. wefox is an insurtech startup company established in 2017, Berlin-based. We are about 1,000 employees, operating in 6 different European markets. Throughout the first couple of years, wefox experienced quite a hypergrowth, deploying operations in new European country pretty much every year or two. So with this, which was a great business strategy for us, came some significant challenges for the centralized data team. First, business complexity, which primarily manifested as different markets had slightly different products, different distribution chains and channels, different nuances, regulatory nuances and otherwise, which resulted in lesser comprehension of the bigger picture by everybody in the central data team. We had to specialize, we had to assign different analysts to different regions, and our ability to be flexible and address those business challenges became challenging for us. Second, organizational complexity. We now had multiple stakeholders on group level, on business unit level, strategic teams trying to approach new markets and new opportunities. We now were bombarded by different requests from those stakeholders, and everything was, of course, absolutely urgent. So if everything is urgent, we had less and less time to focus on the very important but less urgent stuff, resulting in a slower time to market for some of those initiatives. And you can imagine that expansion by merger and acquisition, which wefox did by basically acquiring existing distribution companies in the markets we wanted to operate in, resulted in very diverse and heterogeneous IT landscape. We had multiple CRMs and ERP systems and insurance subledgers and other components that were never designed to work together with one another. We had different local data teams collaborating with the central data team. And some of those components of the data supply chain really didn't have clear ownership, which resulted in quality and reliability issues. All of those factors already are a good indication that we need to decentralize and allow our business domains to operate much more autonomously. But the biggest catalyst for the change came about 2 years ago. The economic situation shifted, funding became less available. wefox made a strategic decision to switch from growth to profitability, and with that, we had less resources, we had smaller budget, we had to do much more with the same team. We couldn't just throw more engineers on it every time we had a problem. So we decided to give self-service analytics a go. Where do you start? We tried to apply the collective best practices. We didn't have ChatGPT at the time, but thank God we have it now. So we asked the ChatGPT, what do you do? Where do you start when you adopt self-service analytics? And those are the recommendations. First of all, data platform and infrastructure. So we were a Power BI heavy company with a lot of logic embedded in the Power BI reports. We took it all out and we redeployed everything as solid, robust, reliable data products. We made, we centralized everything in one analytical data warehouse. We made this data warehouse available for everybody who wanted it. And We published the data products in data products catalog that was written in English. It wasn't designed for data professionals, it was designed for business users, so they can easily find what they're looking for and understand where to access it. Second, governance and access. We established a separate service desk entirely for data analytics topics. So a person in the company who needed access to a data product or a Power BI license or anything else, they didn't need to go and try to figure out what kind of tickets they need to open in the gazillion categories your usual IT service desk will have. We had a separate service desk just for data analytics topics. And those requests were answered within hours. We standardized the way we measure things across wefox. We published a KPI framework. And we aligned these KPIs with all of the business units to make sure that everybody understands what the KPIs mean, how to use them, where to find them. Point number 3, tools. We democratized everything we had, and then we added some. Every tool we had, we made available to anybody who would want it. Anybody can ask for Power BI license. If you are a Mac user, you're not compatible with Power BI, Microsoft has a very great strategy around that. So we introduced Superset. We introduced direct access tools like DBWare, Data Grip. Use whatever you want basically to get the data directly from data warehouse for ad hoc querying. If you're a little bit more technical, you prefer to work with tools like Python. We introduced Jupyter Notebooks, Google Colabs, and this is just a small example. We have more. Everything we could think of, we made available to basically anybody who wanted it. Number 4, training and support. So in terms of support, we had a dedicated service desk. On top of that, we had dedicated Slack channels when you can ask any questions. These channels were manned by people from the central data team. We provided answers pretty much immediately. We also curated training materials on every data subject we could think of. You want to learn SQL, you want to understand how to deploy your first Power BI app, here you go, you have a training right here. And final point, monitor, evaluate. We had 2 major initiatives. First, data health monitoring, a comprehensive solution that ensured that data quality issues, when they happen in the pipelines, we would be the first to know. We would address those issues before they propagate to the end users, to our power users. And we would inform them if there is an issue before they are affected. So data quality was not a major concern anymore. And we started measuring utilization and engagement from our growing community of power users across wefox. So, wefox has about 1,000 employees. How many of those you think started using those tools and adopted self-service approach? Any guesses?
3.
Good one. Any other?
10%? 30%?
30% would be science fiction. 10%, I would take it today, right now. 3 was actually quite close. We got 10 to 15 users that were using our solutions semi-consistently, right? I don't expect every one of those 1,000 employees to pick up data tools and build their own reports. Some of the users are quite content using the structured reports that others build for them. Executives, people that don't really work with data, let's say. But let's be conservative. 100 users, 10% of wefox population of employees. We would put this as our goal to achieve full deployment of self-service analytics. 100 consistent power users across the organization. We reached about 10 to 15% of this population. And we invested quite a lot. So what went wrong? We pondered quite some time on this issue, but eventually we discovered this interesting framework that I would like to share with you today. So this is your classical innovation or technology adoption curve. Geoffrey Moore, in his classical book, Crossing the Chasm, coined the term chasm around 1991, when he approached this challenge from the perspective of adoption of high-tech solutions. These days, high-tech was switching from fax machines to emails, or probably even before that. But it pretty much explains the issue we are facing with data, and I would like to tell you how. Right? So on your left side, you have your typical innovators, visionaries, early adopters. Those early adopters, they will jump through hoops to get to play with the coolest toys. They are passionate about the technology itself. They want to be part of it. They want to engage with you. They will find you. You don't need to find them. They will come to you. Some of them probably demand that you grant them self-service access even before you started thinking about self-service as a thing. Those are the ones we reached without a problem. And then you have the majority. The majority starts with pragmatists. And between those two, you have the chasm. And Geoffrey Moore, in his book, pinpoints two main reasons why this chasm exists. Reason number one: pragmatists are risk-averse. Well, they are pragmatists. They are looking for solutions that work. They are looking for solutions that fit their way of doing things. They don't want to debug your new value proposition. They don't care to be the first. So, primarily, they are looking for other pragmatists to adopt the solutions before them. They are looking for a reference. They are looking for other pragmatists to tell them it's okay, it's safe, you can do this. And they will not progress until they have this reference in hand. And hence we have a kind of chicken and egg situation. You need a pragmatist to get your first reference, and you need your first reference to get your first pragmatist. And number two, pragmatists are looking for what Geoffrey Moore coined as whole product solution approach. The technology itself is not enough. They will not jump through hoops to adopt it no matter what. They will not take any risks. They need somebody to hold their hand. They don't want to be involved in any configuration or setup or troubleshooting or any pain points of adopting the technology. When they think about apps, they don't think about applications, they think about appliances. When a pragmatist buys a fridge, he expects to plug it into the outlet, open the door, the lights go on, the food is cold. That's it. This is what they want. If all you give them is the technology and they need to figure out how to use it and how to adopt it, this is not going to work for them. So what is the strategy for crossing the chasm? When Geoffrey Moore describes it in the book, he speaks about it in military terms. He's talking about it basically as an invasion. You need to identify your beachhead. In the book he was very specific. He was talking about the D-Day invasion. And I apologize in front of my German colleagues. He's an American, so he brought it from their perspective. You need to identify a beachhead where you can establish a base of operations before you move on. You cannot conquer the entire organization at once. You don't have the resources, and you don't have the ability to persuade everybody and adapt your value proposition to everybody all at once with limited resources. So you need to find the one pragmatist that has the biggest pain point your self-service value proposition has the ability to solve. And you need to establish beforehand the relationship of trust with this person. You need to have human equity in the organization of somebody that can actually push this through. Because this person is taking a leap of faith with you. He is adopting this solution first without any references from others, right? And when you identify this ideal team, ideal portion of the organization, where you feel that you can provide the biggest value and reach best adoption rates, you need to offer this particular segment of the organization the whole product. For wefox, the whole product was our core self-service data platform. But in addition to this, we offer two special components. First, a dedicated data ops squad, whose whole purpose is to make sure that there are no deployment pains whatsoever. It's a specialized team that will make sure that when you deploy your Power BI report to production, it runs, it refreshes every day. If there are any data quality issues, you would get a notification. They will configure the dev and test and the production environments. They will make sure you use the right data sources. They will provide you with the templates. They will provide you with the best practice. They will provide you with the security groups for sharing the support with the right people, right? If you want to adopt Python ad hoc self-service analysis, right? You don't need to install Jupyter notebooks or open a ticket with IT. They will come to you, they will make sure the environment works for you, your laptop is prepared and ready, you have access to all the data sources. You don't need to worry about any of this. It's all taken care of by us. As a service to you, you focus on the insights and on the value to the business you want to bring. And number two, a dedicated squad we call the analytics community team. They are pretty much our data evangelists in the organization. They make sure that the onboarding process is streamlined and tailored to the organization we are trying to support. They would curate detailed and highly customized onboarding materials for the exec team we are trying to onboard right now. They will orchestrate workshops that are focusing on the topics that are important to this team. They will initiate turnkey projects. A turnkey project is basically we build the first version of your report, analysis, whatever, for you, per your specifications, like you would have usually with a centralized data team, right? You get specifications, you build something, and then we hand it over when it's ready and prepared. So you don't start here, you start there. In our case, our beachhead was the FP&A team. Those were already quite qualified people. They were very versed with tools like Excel. They did some sort of data analysis. They didn't understand a lot about data warehouses and data products. So we helped them with that. We helped them connect their Excels, their pivot tables directly to the data products. We made sure that the terms in the data products they use are tailored for them, the way they use it in the organization. They wanted to know about specific capabilities of the pivot table feature in Excel, how to connect it directly to a data source. So we gave them that. It's not something you would usually do as a data team, teach people how to use Excel, but this is what they needed, so this is what we gave them. And we created structured reports for them to support their monthly discussions with the business units, and we handed over those reports in the best shape. We really made an exemplary project out of it. We handed it over to them, they just had to pick it up and make small adjustments as they go until they got the confidence to build entirely new stuff on their own. And that worked. That worked primarily because we made it easy to buy, not easy to sell. Easy to sell would be focusing on things like how many data products we have, how many tools you can use to connect to those, how fast your queries run. Those are all features of our core value proposition, and it's all great. And data engineers will be very excited, but the business people don't give a damn about this stuff. What they want to know is that if they use your approach, they can close the financial cycle 2 days earlier. Their financial forecast would be 30% more accurate. This is the things they care about. So you need to package your value proposition in the terms they understand. You need to make it easier for them to adopt. You need to speak in their language. After you achieve this, with one segment of the organization, you use this segment's reference to approach the next one. And then the next one, then the next one, until you pretty much reach all of the early adopters. You get to the conservatives, and the conservatives, they join the train when they see that it's pretty much doesn't make any sense anymore to work the old way, and they have enough references from their pragmatist colleagues, and then you get to 85 power users, not 15. So, it's lunchtime, so let's make it short. If you build it, will they come? Well, if all you do is build it, 15% will come. They will come and they will be happy with whatever you give them, and really you don't really need to invest a lot to convince them. They are passionate about the technology itself. So the question is really, if you build it, will you be able to deploy it company-wide? Because it is quite a significant investment. If you do it right, it will take everything you got. So if you give it all you got and you got only 15% back, it's not a very great ROI for you, right? Those 5 points may help you make the decision if self-service analytics is the right thing for you to adopt in your organization. First, are you willing to step outside of your comfort zone? Some people are in this profession because they like to solve technical challenges. If this is all you like to do, it's probably not the right challenge for you, because crossing the chasm and mass adoption of self-service analytics is primarily a marketing challenge, not a technological one. It's a challenge of positioning yourself as a partner to the business in the organization. It's a challenge of making your tools appealing to them. And it's a completely different skill set than what you usually expect from most data professionals. So, are you willing to expand your horizons on this and attempt the challenge? Second, do you have the right people? Our secret sauce was in the other teams, not the engineering teams, but in the data ops team and the analytics community team. Especially in the analytics community, you need people that are data evangelizers. You need people that are there to support other units. Their success metrics is somebody else succeeding. They are not there to solve engineering problems. If all you have is engineers in your team, you will need these additional skill sets. I'm personally blessed with an amazing team at wefox. People that really don't give a damn what it says in their role descriptions. People that, as I mentioned before, in loving the problem. The problem was we needed to deploy self-service in the organization, so they stepped up and they adopted those skills. Do you have this kind of people in your team? And if you don't, can you get some of those people to join your team? Do you have the resources? You will not be able to succeed without them. Trust and relationships. If this is your first month and you come with this brilliant idea, let's do self-service analytics, you do not have the human equity yet. You do not have the trust of your peers and colleagues, other leaders in the organization. Don't do it. You need to establish a relationship of trust first, because the first pragmatist you will onboard will really need to risk everything he has on you, making this possible for him to succeed. Can you secure the leadership support? That's probably the biggest one. Your leaders will want to see return on investment. Return on investment, as I will describe in the next point, is quite tricky here, right? But this is definitely something you attempt on the long run. This is not a quick win for you. If you cannot convince your leadership to support you on this long journey, you will really have a hard time to execute this. You will get to the point you invested so much, and then you cannot proceed to reap the benefits. Incremental ROI is what you get in this kind of projects. do not expect a hockey stick kind of results. You do not invest, and then once you launch, you see a meteoric adoption rates. You do not see exponential growth in number of people using your tools. What you see is staircase chart. You invest in one team, you adapt your solutions and value propositions to this particular team, you invest, then you reap the results. And then you invest in the next team for quite some time. Then you reap the results again. Eventually you see something like a staircase developing. Yes, on the long run, if you do it right, you will get phenomenal ROI. But if your organization measures projects, ROI on every single project, this is probably not the right initiative for you. Do we have a happy ending at wefox? I don't know yet. We are in the beginning of our journey. I can tell you that we definitely see a lot of progress since we adopted this approach. We see teams that use self-service quite comprehensively. We see that it really works, but we didn't have enough time to roll it out organization-wide. So perhaps with the assistance of our hosts, we can meet here next year and I can tell you all about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do we have time for questions? So does anyone have some questions?
Yes.
I have a short question. How do you know that your system you provide for self-service is easy for the end user?
We pretty much ask them. So the way we make sure that the solutions appeal to them is by going cross-functional. We create a dedicated team that has our technical capabilities, people from the DevOps squad, people from engineering, people from BI and analytics, and we find, together with the leaders of the team we are trying to onboard, we are finding data-savvy people that do not necessarily have data background, general technologists in their team, and we establish this cross-functional team, and they are responsible to deliver the results together. They have same priorities, they have same success KPIs, they have same incentives. They work pretty much as one unit, and what they need we provide, and if there are challenges, we figure it out and we try to help them exactly what it hurts.
Great, any more? 5 minutes to lunch, I'm sure you could have another question.
Maybe I didn't get it correctly in the presentation. What we see is we give people the software to analyze data, Power BI and so on, and they would kind of shortcut, partly use data from central data warehouse and partly their own data. How do you recognize what should go actually in a centralized data pool and what should stay locally?
That's a tough question. We do have some silos of data in different specializing units. Usually it would be what we call small but very intelligent data, right? Those would be mapping tables or some specific targets, something that is created by people that really understand the domain. We offer them the possibility to ingest it securely into the data warehouse. So we recently deployed a generic G-Sheet connector that enables pretty much to connect any G-Sheet directly. Whenever you put data in it, it just appears in a dedicated table in the data warehouse. It's only accessible to you, but the utilization is quite limited because if you really want to do great stuff with this data set, you want to include it in one of the data products. If this data comes from a domain we already onboarded to the self-service analytics paradigm, we will build data products designed specifically for them, and our data ops team will help ensuring that the data flows from the spreadsheets to the data warehouse reliably every day, so they can then access it with whatever they want, Power BI, whatever they want to connect to it. Eventually, if it stays in the G-Sheet, it will never scale. So everything needs to go to the data warehouse one way or another. Yes?
What's the current adoption rate?
So I need to check the latest numbers, but I believe it's around 20-25 people, as we only onboarded one team successfully so far, and we're only starting the second one. But we were stagnating for several months on 10-15 without no progress until we switched to this approach, and therefore I believe it works.
Have you seen this approach at another company? I've seen the claim is coming from one guy in the US, but have you seen this approach conducting somewhere else?
No, actually, if you are talking about the book that I referenced, right? This book was about startup companies offering their technological solutions to the general market. It wasn't even slightly related to data. We pretty much adopted it to data use case, loosely, I would say. It's not fully translated. We just took the major ideas and tried to make them work. I haven't seen anybody else attempting this before.
What's your perspective on scaling? We have here companies that are much bigger. Do you think that when you have your processes and everything, that just hiring more people will allow you to scale linearly, or it would be sustainable?
Scaling was one of the challenges we had that made us go into this direction. Because if you have a centralized data team and you are quite small, you add 1-2 engineers, you double, triple your capabilities, right? But when you have 50 engineers in the team, adding another 10 does not necessarily bring the same effectiveness as before. And you will have to make them very, very specialized, because no engineer can then understand everything, right? When you go to self-service, you basically, especially if you do this cross-functionally, you create business plus tech teams that work together on the same challenges. Incentivized and prioritized the same way, they're pretty much a separate unit working on these challenges together. This can scale indefinitely. There is no limit to this. All you need to do is to make sure that your data ops team can handle the load, to make sure that deployment, managing production, managing quality issues stays up to speed with all of this. Yeah.
When we started our citizen developer program in the company, we offered everyone in the company to use Power Apps, Power Automate, and we expected that the business people would use this opportunity to create their own apps and so on.
And they didn't.
What we actually saw was the single business units hiring full-time Power Apps developers or something. So if you see something similar here.
That's the exact point I'm making, because your stakeholders, they are looking for a solution, not a product or an app. Yeah. And solution for them means that it works, and they don't need to care about how it works. They don't want necessarily to learn the intricacies of the technology, right? So if a consultant is a cost-effective option for them, consultant comes, makes everything work, and then he goes, and you have a solution in hand, right? I think though, if you build an internal consultant, like an ops team dedicated especially for that, that would be more cost effective for you and really more aligned with the organizational goals.
How will you ensure quality with more teams adopting to it? It becomes more hard for a central team to really have this connection.
Yeah, that's really a question of maturity. We do expect some people in the organization to build their own reports. We still didn't reach maturity level when we expect them to build their own data products. So the data products are still deployed centrally in the old way. People tell what they need, engineers build pipelines, developers build models, it's all handled centrally. Data ops team is quite involved in making sure that all of those pipelines are well monitored, and if we have quality issues, they never reach the end user. Because essentially, you will never eliminate data quality problems. What you can eliminate is people affected by them. And this is what we do.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a very insightful session. We'll now break for lunch until 1:45, and we'll start again. So please enjoy the lunch.